Hi, my name's Ben Edwards from ASA Development. What I'm going to do today is just give a brief overview of our project that we had as part of the Pier71 Smart Port Challenge. Our partner within that particular challenge was the Tome Group, and what we were asked to do was develop a remote audit, remote inspection app that would make their lives easier. What we did as part of this project was we got with Tome and we come up with what would be a base inspection checklist that we could use in the system to demonstrate its capabilities. And the checklist that we chose was the PSC Readiness Verifications Checklist. So as you can see, this particular checklist, it's fairly generic and it's a fairly simple checklist, but it was just the one that was chosen to demonstrate the capabilities of the system. So step one of what we did was we took this particular checklist and we incorporated all of these individual questions into the Contego system. So each of the questions from here were brought across into the system. So what we'll do now is we'll just go into the system and we'll take a look at how it's set up within Contego. So as you can see here, there's a basic dashboard functionality. It also tracks a number of people that may do the inspections or that are responsible for fixing up actions within the system. But what we'll do for the purpose of this, we'll look at the audit functionality and inspections and how that worked with Tome. So the first step in setting up the audits is incorporating all of the questions into the system. So as you can see here, each of the questions from the PSC verifications checklist have been brought across into the system. So here you can see the question text is here. We can categorize the question into life-saving appliances or any other particular system within the vessel. Department responsible for that particular question. If there's a particular MARPOL or SOLAS or LSA reference, that can be added, and the particular area of the vessel, so that we can then start to filter questions. So it makes the system much more intuitive. When inspectors walking through a different area, they can start to filter for the particular area that they're dealing with. There's different levels of answers, so answers can become very basic, and that's what we've created for this particular checklist. It's a very simple checklist, so all we've got here is we've got some basic text and we've got a yes, no, not applicable. But if we needed more complex questions, we can then start to add different answer types. So as you can see here, we can create another answer and we can add files, we can add images, we can add video, and we can add audio, so that the inspector can actually add audio to the question for later reference. The next step after adding all of the questions is a template is created. So in this instance, the template that we've created is the PSC Readiness Verifications Checklist. So this is where we basically create the template. We add the questions in the particular order that they're needed. So here we can see we've broken it down into sections. And this particular inspection checklist has 32 questions. So once this particular template has been created, it's saved into the system. And then what we have is we then go and commence the audits. So with the audits, you can see here that there are a number of audits we've already in the system that we've basically been testing against. But the way that an audit is created is it's entered into the system. You select the auditor, the start date, the end date, the particular site. So in this instance, we just use a number of Tome's vessels that they were managing. We've just put a hypothetical company in here, Shell in this instance, and we've got that set up. So as an auditor, you've got the basic audit details here, but then you can add team members, if you had additional team members. In this instance, it's just a very simple checklist. And then the items. So this is the web-based interface that you can see here, but all of the questions are set up ready to go in this particular instance. And these questions will also sync across to our mobile app, and I'll take you through that shortly. So you can see here the questions basically put in here for the auditor. If it's okay, if it's not applicable, that's simply entered there. We can approve it, or someone else can approve it. So if this comes to onshore, the actual they may reject it onshore because it's not correct. So onshore workflow can move this to rejected. What's also unique to this system is actions are actually added here as well. So we have a centralized view of any actions that need to be addressed as part of this particular inspection. So here you can see we've added one action to this question, just as an example. But you can see here that we can put the criticality, what needs to be done, who's responsible for it, and due dates. Dashboards are driven from due dates so that we can see overdue actions, we can see the status, we can add additional descriptions, closeout comments. These fields are very much up to the individual organisation as to what they want to have here. One other thing that we've managed to implement into this particular test instance for Tome Group was the format of the export. So if required, the system can actually export the final or the finished report out into a PDF that looks similar to the one that Tome Group provided us. And what you can see here is this is actually an export of the system questions into a PDF format. At the end, if any actions are required, those actions can be attached at the end. It can include photographs if required, but in this particular instance with Tome, it was just they wanted the class and the status, and any description could be added there to the particular action that was required to close out any of these questions. From all the audits that are within the system, the audits can be locked down to individual inspectors and auditors, or someone such as an onshore operations manager or QHSE manager would have an overview of all of the audits within the system. So this is a view where you could see all of the audits within the system, or what you could start to do is you could filter these down to particular locations. So if you wanted to look at one particular vessel, you could select those vessels, and then it would filter the view down to those particular vessels. As mentioned, all of the actions from the system are centralized as well, so that you've got centralized oversight of all of these particular actions. You can see which audit it was attached to, critical. You can also filter for overdue, or any other manner of filters that you'd like to see by sites, different checklists that you could run filters on, statuses, if anything was overdue or open or closed, you can run all of those sort of filters there. The system also has a dashboard functionality. This allows you to see things like actions overdue, actions per vessel, so you can actually drill down to particular vessels to see what sort of actions were at those sites, number of audits conducted, so you can start to see which vessels you have already audited. So this can also create audit plans for the future. You can see the audits that have got the vessels that have expired actions, so overdue actions. The status, you can see which ones are actually open, closed, completed, in progress. And then what you can set up here is you can actually set up your particular audit schedule, so that you can then start to forward plan when you have those audits across your fleet. Next, we'll take a look at the Contego mobile application. This allows auditors and inspectors to undertake audits remotely at site. It has the functionality to operate without an internet connection, and it allows any remote inspectors or auditors to dial up and get assistance from specialists onshore. Prior to the auditor or inspector leaving for site, they'll sync all of the audits that they've got in the system to their remote device. Each of the audits will then be available to the inspectors when they're offshore. And as you can see here, we have the ability for syncing both from the remote device to the local and vice versa. The sync is quite quick and it's been optimized to operate on low bandwidth environments. Once the synchronization is finished, it allows the auditor to view all of his audits on the local device. The auditor inspector can then undertake any particular inspections. And again, in this instance, it's a very simple yes, no, not applicable, and notes. It allows the auditor to go through and approve, reject, or allow someone else to approve and reject once that's synced back to the online database. The system does allow for voice recognition in addition to typing, but obviously voice recognition is dependent on the ambient sound environment in which the inspector is operating. The next feature of the mobile app is remote support. The remote support system is provided through TeamViewer Pilot, which is a virtual reality solution that TeamViewer has implemented. All the user does is hits call support, which activates TeamViewer Pilot. Once TeamViewer Pilot's activated, the ID is generated, and then that ID can be shared over any particular means that the organisation has, be it WhatsApp, email, a VoIP solution. And once onshore supports receive the request from the remote inspector, they can then call in and a remote support request can commence. And what we'll provide next is an example of how that remote support can help someone that may be struggling with a situation that they can't solve by themselves. If you can move the camera across to the right, all right, just stop there. I'm going to circle this key. If you can turn that clockwise for me to the right. All right, if you could just move to the left now. Stop there. All right, if you can see where I'm going to place this arrow, the number 1, if you can move that across to the right, that red button, slide that to the right. Excellent. Now I'm going to circle the grey button below there. If you can see that one, just to press that and that'll start the vehicle for you. Excellent. The benefit of what we've managed to do here with Contego is bring together a very professional and systematic approach to inspections and audits where all actions can be centralized. And by teaming up with TeamViewer and their augmented reality solution, TeamViewer Pilot, we can also provide remote support to any inspectors. So the benefits of this is we get to improve our first-time fix rates, we avoid the unnecessary site visits and reduce costs. We can record support sessions for future learning, decrease human errors because you've got a coach right on your shoulder. And we can help customers perform first level troubleshooting. So all in all, it's quite a good synergy between what we've done with Contego and managing to bring in something like TeamViewer Pilot to support our inspectors. So in closing, I hope this has given you a good overview of the system that we've developed, and I really hope that we do have some ongoing success within the Singapore maritime industry. I'd like to thank you for your support for this ongoing project. Thank you.